All right. Now it's official because we're recording. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Stan Myers. I'm president of KC Downtowners. And we've got a really special program today. For those of you who maybe don't know or you're first timers, you picked a great time to join. The KC Downtowners, we're an informal group of folks from all walks of life who have one thing in common. We're just passionate about downtown Kansas City. And we celebrate, all the great things that are happening, including positive fostering of initiatives such as diversity, inclusion, and equity. So again, welcome. Thank you all for being here. To that end, consistent with the KC Downtowners mission, I'm really excited to start off today by introducing our nonprofit highlight for the month. And we have Brent Lager, who is from Uncover KC. And Brent, I'm just going to turn it over to you and let you share with us the Uncover KC story. So we've got a little technical issue. Brent is communicating. There we go.
Yeah, excellent. Sorry about that. Great start. My name is Brent Lager, and I run Uncover KC. We're a local nonprofit that connects people and just helps them act. That our whole goal is to be that bridge between those who want to help in our community and those who need, looking for that help. It started out for myself when I lived downtown at 10th and Broadway. I used to live by a fine establishment called The Quaff and enjoyed that probably too much. But I was looking to serve when I was 26, and I really just had this fire to help others, and it wasn't easy to find. And so what I ended up doing was trying to Google and call myself and eventually just got frustrated until I walked into Morning Glory Cafe, which is also downtown at 13th and Broadway. And I walked in with my co-founder and we just asked to help. And we ended up feeding 300 people who were in need that morning. It was snowing outside and that filled the hole in my heart. I don't know if you've ever been in a spot in your life and you just want to make more impact. You just want to do something for others and you simply just need help finding that opportunity. What changed everything was 2 6-year-old kids walked through the line that snowy morning, and I kind of just froze and I ended up pouring as much candy in their bags. I was in charge of like Snickers, and they went nuts. They danced, they smiled, and I had this overwhelming joy of just helping someone else, even if just for 10 seconds. And that's what I wanted for the rest of my life. And so I started a nonprofit that helped create opportunities just like that. And 8 years now we've been going and it is expanded beyond my dreams of, simply not just being that bridge to helping people act, but being that spark, that catalyst. We have education programs. We have corporate programs like Port Casey and John, who we partner up to help volunteer. We have volunteer management services and event services. If you were in the KC Marathon this year, we managed the volunteers for that. So it has grown greatly to become more than just volunteerism, but just find a way to make impact. So with all that said, I am here today in front of you for two things. Please, if you haven't found a place to serve, let us help you. Come to our website, uncoverkc.org. You can individually look for opportunities on there. We obviously have other programs if you want to get your company involved, get your family. There shouldn't be any barriers for us to help love others. And that's what Uncover KC is here to help, tear down those barriers. So the second thing is if you have an organization, if you work with one or need volunteers, let me know. The only way we connect people is if we know what's out there. So those are my two call to actions. If you can do that, please do. But beyond that, just keep making impact, keep connecting, and keep making KC better. Questions at all?
Wonderful. Any questions for Brent? That's a great story. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
When you say you coordinate volunteers, can you give an example of what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So whenever, if it's simply just you need to get volunteers for an organization event, on our website, you can submit onto a calendar, and then we send out to our network of about 50,000 volunteers. I think we're above 55,000 volunteers we recruited now. That just goes out and informs them of what's out there. You can also, if you're wanting help management and very strategic recruitment, like we do with the marathons and Powell Gardens, I'm actually out here right now. They're one of our clients. We can definitely chat. I teach up at William Jewell. So up on the hill on the side. And so we, volunteer management, been there for 6 years, and really just those practices and procedures, we help kind of nonprofits revolutionize the way they're doing things. And right now, coming out of the pandemic, we have to think differently on how we get citizens engaged. And so that's kind of where, I think we're starting to fill a lot of gaps in the community. Is helping organizations that maybe they've lost a whole lot of volunteers. Maybe they're having a hard time getting volunteers to come back, and they are, we're helping them kind of build new recruitment pipelines, new recruitment strategies, and then management. Recruitment, recognition, retention. Those are the 3 R's. And if a nonprofit's not doing that, then we need to help them do that. So that's kind of where we're at.
I'm sorry, could you just repeat the 3 R's? I didn't quite catch that.
Yeah, absolutely. Recruitment, recognition, retention. It is any solid volunteer program would have all 3 of those in place in some form. It might not be as intentional as I make it, but if you can do those 3 R's and do them well, your volunteer program will be healthy and take off. Where we find most of our volunteers, I'll be honest with you, a lot of them are 35 and younger. We have and I think it's because we make it easy. Like when I started out, I went to a ton of schools and really developed our education program, which you can see on the website. And the idea was, we have all these students doing volunteer hours, but they're just kind of trying to get hours. They're missing the meaning of it. So what we did was we made this curriculum around empowering them to pick what they do and then helping them to do it on a more, a larger community scale. And so that's really taken off. And because of that, and because how easy we make it, we get a ton of high school, we get a ton of college, and we get a ton of young professionals participating. The other groups that we get are families. I would say a lot of families that want to get their kids involved, want to get, it's actually kind of really awesome, especially, today's age, we need more love. I don't know how else to put it. And so families find that, and so businesses, and of course, our most experienced generations, they're always there and have time. So, but I would say our, 75% of our volunteer numbers come from 35 and younger. Some of our most sought after types of volunteer opportunities are ones you get your hands dirty. I like getting the dirt, I'm out in Powell Gardens. So there's a cliche, maybe not cliche, but whatever, a pun. Yep, there we go. And so that's there. But a couple of my favorite ones, Morning Glory, Uplift. Have you ever heard of Uplift down in I think 18th and Prospect? They actually load up trucks 3 times a week and take they are, Uplift is wonderful because you can be in the van and help deliver these opportunities. Gillis, or Cornerstones of Care, which is actually where John's staff is today. You get played, and these kids, at-risk youth, are just they have had a hard time, or they've been burned by adults in our society, and just going there and helping them cook, playing wiffle ball, it's just a huge thing. So those are some of my favorites, that really gets you out and get there. And then any of the community, KC Community Gardens, Powell Gardens, Boys Grow. I like getting in, like I said, getting in the dirt a little bit. So those are some of my favorite ones. you can actually absolutely come to me for projects in the future. On the website, we have a submission form. I also throw my email in here real quick and my phone. I don't even care. You can call, text. I'm always here, except for the next few days I'll be in Seattle. But besides that, I would love to help you and whatever others you want to bring. One of my favorite things that we do is not just helping others, people volunteer, but helping them recruit others to join them. We call it the multiplier effect. And so that is really, if you can lead others to make change, that's just almost as impactful as yourself. So yeah, absolutely. Please reach out.
Fantastic, Brent. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's been the past several months as we've been it's like everyone else transitioning to this virtual format, and have a positive has been the opportunity to connect with so many nonprofits that we've been able to kind of help share their message and find out how can we help. And oftentimes it's through donations, which are really critically important. But it's eye-opening for me to hear that there's an organization such as yours that really is kind of almost an umbrella group that is a resource for all these other nonprofits that we've been talking about the past few months. So, we don't think about those things, the 3 R's that you talked about, and just having it, someone that assists with the administration and getting things done. So what a great service you provide. I can see why Port KC is a strong partner for you all. And so we'll all do our part to help promote that message and get you connected. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the time.
All right, great. Well, we'll now move on to our main feature program of the day. And I hope that just about everyone here on this call is aware that there has been a little bit of chatter in the last couple of weeks about a somewhat exciting new development in the downtown area along the riverfront. Of course, the women's soccer team here that has recently unveiled their new franchise name and logo, the Kansas City Current, will be building their new home on the Berkeley riverfront along the Missouri River. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce our two speakers, and John Stevens with Port KC and Tom Proebstle with Generator Studio. Let me read your bios real quick, and bear with me as my bifocals are not as strong as they should be, but I'm going to read here. John Stevens is an economic development professional who has spent his career focused on utilizing thoughtful development concepts to improve the community. He is passionate about his city and has built a reputation for creativity and collaboration. Previous leadership roles include serving as president of one of the largest urban redevelopment districts in America, director of economic development for Kansas City, Kansas, and CEO of Visit KC. A University of Missouri alumnus, John is a frequent speaker on civic issues and is an active board member for many organizations, including Visit KC, KC Streetcar, KCPT, Arts KC, and the KC ADC. So there's your alphabet soup. Thank you, John. Tom Proebstle with Generator Studio, co-founder. Tom's impact on the sports, entertainment, and hospitality industry spans over a quarter century. His influence is broad, completing work as varied as Taco Republic's transformation of an old gas station in KCK, to leading the design of a Live Nation outdoor music venue in St. Louis, to leading the planning efforts to help save Fenway Park. Yeah, that's exciting. He has perfected the ability to set aside design agendas in order to create authentic and responsive architecture for his clients. A recipient of numerous design awards and honors, Tom's impact to the Kansas City area business community was recognized in 2007 with a 40 Under 40 award from Ingram's magazine. Tom strongly believes in giving back to his community. Among other endeavors, he is on the executive committee and board chair for the Child Protection Center, past board member for the Center of Architecture and Design, and member of the Downtown Council of Kansas City's Business Retention and Attraction Committee. Thank you both for being here. Without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to John and Tom to share with us this exciting story.
Great. Well, thank you, Stan, and good afternoon, everyone. think how we're going to approach this is I'll give a little placemaking and a little intro to the riverfront. And then Tom, as the design and creative genius behind the stadium, will roll out a lot more discussion on the stadium. But at any time, please ask questions. So those of you who aren't familiar with Port KC, you heard Stan introduce all the acronym soup, but the Port Authority of Kansas City, I've been lucky enough to have been here for 3 years now. And we are an enterprise organization, a creative entity that's driven to grow the economy of Kansas City, Missouri. And we work with projects, mostly logistics, industrial, manufacturing. And our focus is to grow the economy and to create economic opportunity for all. And we redevelop land as far south as 49 Crossing, which is the former Richards-Gebaur Air Base, as far east as the Blue River Corridor with the upcoming Missouri River Terminal, and throughout the Northland. But obviously, Kansas City was born at the river. We created and came out of the river here at the base of downtown Kansas City, and reclaiming and revitalizing the riverfront for future generations is really at the core and at the heart of what we do. So you can see here, 1855, the riverfront was a pretty thriving place as Main Street was dug out of the cliffs and the community moved up the hill to what is now downtown Kansas City. And we can continue on. And then a lot of development happened. And early on, some of the things that we had to remediate and the things we're still stuck with geographically developed early. That was the rail running right along the river because that was flat and easy grades. And then you can see the Veolia steam plant is still there, but there was also coal gasification plants, lots of dirty manufacturing. And of course, prior to the levee system, it was very flood prone. So as we got into the 30s, 40s, and through World War II era, we started seeing more and more people in Kansas City viewed the riverfront as old and as not necessarily the future of Kansas City, but the past of Kansas City, and something to be turned away from. So we can continue on. So then you see this in the 50s. This was the ASB, which really created the energy and the catalyst for Kansas City being a creative and industrial crossroads. But the riverfront became neglected. So thanks to a lot of dedicated partners, federal, state, local, we started reclaiming the riverfront in the early 2000s. The move of the Town of Kansas Bridge, the creating of the Riverfront Heritage Trail, and then, of course, most importantly, the remediation of a total of 55 acres on the riverfront that became Berkeley Riverfront Park and the Berkeley Riverfront Development Area. And then we continue, and we are nowhere near done. We are just getting started. But connecting the Town of Kansas Bridge and the ASB underpass to the Berkeley Park area, and we are looking further east to the River Bend Park and west into the West Bottoms, where we still run a port terminal. But we're really excited about how we develop the riverfront. So where we stand now is we have 410 units in the Union Riverfront, Union Berkeley apartments, and those are 98% occupied. And we have a lot of citizens down here living right on Berkeley Riverfront Park. 353 more units are under construction, including a significant number of those set aside as affordable units, income restricted affordable, with the core apartments. Obviously, Barquet, an exciting restaurant and dog park venue. And then recently, there has been announcements that we're working with a developer for an approximately 8-story, 200+ unit apartment complex in front of Barquet. And that all goes to where we're headed of creating a dense, walkable, transit-connected riverfront for all Kansas Cityans. It will be and is an extension of downtown and a neighborhood that will be diverse, unique, exciting, and accessible. So with that, when I joined 3 years ago, we started looking at the historic plans and we started looking at what the future should be. So you see parcels 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are approximately the size of full city blocks of downtown Kansas City. And the early plans, the early catalysts, and I'll sidebar here and say that where I'm sitting in our offices at the Union Berkeley Apartments, these were the first residences built on the Missouri River in Kansas City, Missouri in 110 years. So that took a lot of belief and a lot of trust that the riverfront should be reclaimed and revitalized and is a catalyst for the future of Kansas City, like so many other cities. And we are just getting started with that. So we started looking at how do we continue to bring people to Berkeley Riverfront, have activities, entertainment, but keep it green, keep it accessible. And as we started adding more residences down here, we really started looking at the east, at Park East along the Bond Bridge. And we just kept saying, what would be a catalyst that would really energize the riverfront and set it off on a trajectory that could be judged in years and not in decades of development. And about that time, some pretty amazing people came to the table. And this, we're talking February, when we were all just reading the news about Angie and Chris Long and Brittany Matthews and the ownership group buying a team from Salt Lake and moving NWSL back to Kansas City, and what their vision was for creating a model sports program, but a model program that all of Kansas City can rally around. And about that time, they kind of came into the picture in a discussion and said, we believe that the riverfront is the place and it is the future if we're going to have a stadium and we're going to be just this global model program for women's sports and for sport in general, and really take it to the next level and make Kansas City the model. And we started talking, and I'll tell you, we had a lot of months of working through a lot of details around how do you put a facility like Tom is getting ready to talk about on the riverfront. But at every step, Angie and Chris and Brittany believed that the center, the heartbeat of Kansas City was where a stadium like this should be, that it should be a stadium with the streetcar accessible, a stadium that people can ride bikes to, that they can be a part really, truly at the center of the community. And they also said, we want the stadium to be a center of education and of justice and of all of this energy that we believed. And when we started looking, and I've worked on a lot of facilities in urban redevelopment in Kansas City and elsewhere over the years. And as we started talking about the stadium, we said, well, this can't be just a stadium that is only, the lights are only turned on and people are only there when NWSL is playing. And immediately there was no discussion. It was absolutely, this is a stadium built for these amazing athletes. And we want this to be a stadium that the fans and the team of Kansas City Current can be proud of, but it's going to be so much more. And it's going to be active and open to the park. And it will be a place where people will want to gather, even when it's not match day, and that it will be a catalyst for future development. So what you're going to hear from Tom in a couple minutes when I turn it over was how he brought that vision to life. And where we are going next, I can tell you that all of these rest of these development parcels, we are on a fast track. I don't think you will see many to any projects that we announce after today that will be smaller than 8 to 10 story buildings. This is going to be a true mixed use, dynamic, walkable neighborhood. We're working with the city and with the team to narrow Berkeley Parkway, to make it more walkable, to make it more bikeable. And this is going to be, I think, a model of how we extend downtown and connect it to Kansas City. We certainly have more to do. We have to look at how we traverse the rail more. And we are, thanks to partners with KC Streetcar and the Ride KC and others, we will be building a bike ped facility that will run parallel to the Grand Viaduct from the River Market. The streetcar is coming to the park. And I see a question about parking. So this is an exciting one. This stadium from day one is designed to not have a sea of parking. Parking will be temporary on parcels 3, 4, 5, and 6. So there will be 2,000 plus spaces when the stadium opens. But as new development comes in, all of the new parking will be multi-use parking. So there'll be more on-street parking, there will be more garage parking, and all of the parking will be multi-use. So no more of parking that is empty during the day, that is only empty when people come home at night. But this will be a community like many other true walkable urban communities where people have access to parking at different times of the day and different uses. So we're very excited about that. And we, of course, will encourage the KC Current and all of the programming at the stadium to ride the streetcar to the park and have a march to the stadium through the park because it will only be, less than 100 yards. Which is very short walk compared to most other facilities where you have large parking lots. So we're excited about that. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Tom at Generator. And so he can roll out the amazing design work that they've done to really bring this facility to life for Kansas City. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, John. And hope everyone can hear me. And thanks for listening in today with our presentation. Going back to February with what John was talking about, when we got a call from Chris and Angie, and they said, "Well, hey, we just bought an NWSL team, and we're going to bring them to Kansas City. We need a little help with our facilities." I said, "Okay, all right. Well, what are we talking about?" And first was the training center, and it'd be remiss without saying that they're making a major investment in the training, and they see that as a really important part of the process. And we found the opportunity just up the river in Riverside, where they are making an investment of $15 million for a training center that has a couple different things going with it. But part of it is that it's going to be multi-field or multi-pitch concept, so that they will be able to do a variety of training there, as well as host tournaments and those sorts of things like you'll see around the community in general. And so with that major investment up the road, then getting that going, the attention turned to the stadium pretty quickly and what we might be considering there. And I'll tell you that from day one, as John mentioned, there was never any doubt that Chris and Angie wanted to put the stadium down here. And, the questions are, well, does it fit? Is it possible? And so when we began to engage Port KC, John and his team, it was an immediate yes, and we're going to figure out how to do this. So it's been really great working with you, John, and your team in trying to make this happen as we move forward. And I just want to take a minute on that, in Angie's view, Chris and Angie and Brittany, and the purpose of this, when they see the opportunity with women's athletics, Angie was a college star athlete herself, so she knows, as we all know, Brittany was as well, a professional athlete on top of it. They understand where women's athletics stood at the time, but more importantly, where it's going now. And so the opportunity for Angie and Chris and Brittany to buy the team, bring them here, it's the question came up, well, are there other locations in the city? Well, of course there are. But is there a place that has more visibility that might be more important than this location. And we couldn't think of another location that was as important as John mentioned, the history of Kansas City at this location. So all that combined, Angie was not going to sit back and put this facility in a suburban location, maybe second fiddle to something else. The whole intent of this is to raise the profile of women's athletics, to bring along a variety of different community organizations that can be part of this, bring it all together into a very high profile location in our city that takes advantage of our infrastructure that's put in place. And I'd be remiss in not congratulating John and his team on the work that they've done to put in place what you guys see today on the Berkeley campus. The infrastructure in terms of traffic, the fact that the streetcar is going to come down into this district, the advancement of Bally's, and then all the other work that's been going on with Barquet, the apartments and possible hotels and all these different things make this an ideal location. And we couldn't think of a better spot for it. So, and I'd also be remiss I should mention our partners in this as well. We've got some really great partners on board with J.E. Dunn Construction helping us. They're partnering with Monarch Build, a woman-owned firm. Again, Angie felt it was important, and it is important to bring along others that can gain from this, and we can contribute to different organizations, groups in Kansas City. And then we've got a couple other great local partners as well, Talaferro and Brown, who many of you know here in the community, doing a lot of civil engineering work, and then Henderson Engineers and Thornton Thomas City, all local companies that are participating in this project. So we're really excited to have all them on board. And I will just zoom in here on the site itself. So this is a little over a 7-acre site, and the scale is, it's hard to imagine the scale of these things. And I've got a really interesting diagram that I'll show you in a second. But the building itself, again, sitting on about a 7-acre site, 270,000 square foot of area, 40,000 square feet enclosed space that is an assortment of buildings throughout. And we'll get into a little more of that in a second. One of the things when we mentioned traffic and the commitment to utilizing the infrastructure. So right now in discussions with the Streetcar Authority, we've made plans to account for the potential for a streetcar alignment around the north side and along the Missouri River. But those are conversations that are ongoing as they consider, well, what is the right path? As John mentioned, there's some discussions going around Berkeley Parkway and what is that going to become? What does Riverfront Drive become? But most important out of this whole thing is taking advantage of public transportation and then how do we leverage that to create a very dense environment as this all comes together. We want people to, at the end of the day, when we talk about utilizing the infrastructure, you think about that for a second. The streetcar in what we know it's going to become, we know it's going to start at Whole Foods at UMKC, right? We know it's going to go up to the plaza, then it's going to head downtown and ultimately end up here. So imagine that you leave your car at work if you work on the plaza, you grab some friends or colleagues, potentially hit a pub on the way, you jump on that streetcar and you come down here and go to a match. That is what we think is a really forward future for Kansas City that takes advantage of the infrastructure that we're currently building right now. And thus why it was so important to come down to this neighborhood. So as we look at the stadium itself a little bit further, one of the interesting things that I want to point out, so one of our projects that we're working on is the Grand Place project down in the crossroads. And there's a little diagram over here to the right side. And in the sort of brownish color is the old historic Kansas City Star building itself, which will become the Grand Place. So these are to scale. And I was mentioning the scale differences, and it's hard to imagine the scale of these things. And so that building, the current historic Kansas City Star building, fits on the pitch inside this stadium. So it's a really fascinating, when you think about that visually, about how impactful this project is going to be, the scale of it, and particularly when you're coming across the Bond Bridge, all the eyeballs that are going to see this building. Yet another reason why it was really important for Angie, Chris, and Brittany that this was at the forefront, at front and center for Kansas City development, and makes for a really great blimp shot, which we'll show you in a second on top of it. One thing I do want to mention is that the front door, so again, the possible streetcar alignment to the west side and the development that John spoke of that will continue to develop westward. And so this is our primary plaza entry here. This is where everybody is going to come in. Major entry point that will be flanked by ticketing, another conversation and things that have developed technology-wise through COVID is that we're going ticketless, so that the need for a ticket counter is going away. But nonetheless, we want front and center, we want a really great pub or restaurant. We'll look for a great partner to be part of this at our front door here. And then your security to get into the space, some VIP experiences, places to grab beers as you enter, team store as well to sell some great merchandise. So all that's going to be happening at the front door here. And also want you to consider that, yes, in the meantime, we are going to have this open space, as John mentioned, that they're looking ultimately to infill with dense urban infill opportunities. But in the meantime, we are going to have some open space there that will be used for temporary parking. And on that day one, when the building opens, we do want there to be a destination. So when you come down here and you park your car, we do want there to be a restaurant and a bar. So even when there is no game going on or no other event happening in the building, that there is something going on. And that's another important thing that I want to talk about, really important to Chris, Angie, and Brittany, is that this isn't just going to be a soccer stadium. There are other things that are going to be happening in the venue. And we're currently working through what those opportunities are going to be. But we imagine city and state high school soccer championships, partnerships with colleges to host events down here. Music, absolutely. The opportunity to have concerts down here, yes, we're going to do that. And then a variety of other things that could come up as well as we look into this to make this a really multi-purpose venue. We'll talk a little more about some of the details on the concourses and so on, but the idea for partnerships with companies so that they can host events on non-game days or non-event days is really important. So that if you're Port KC and you want to go down the street and host a major event with some of your partners and your staff, that there's space in this building for people to use it both during an event and then also at non-event times as well. That's really important to do that and to have that overlay when you talk about an urban stadium or an urban sports and entertainment project. So I was talking about the blimp shot, and so here we go. So we're hovering in the blimp sort of towards the Bond Bridge, looking towards our fabulous downtown. And so this is really the energy that Angie and Chris and Brittany wanted to capture as they go out, and we all collectively, in fact, go out to sell these ideas and partnerships and sponsorships and activities that are going to happen down here. We're all salespeople at the end of the day in representing Kansas City and, making this the best thing it can be for our city. And so we love this shot. We love the energy in this and looking towards downtown. Again, the streetcar alignment is in discussion right now with a couple different opportunities there, where it's going to stop and what that alignment is going to be. The stadium itself, one of the other really important things for ownership was that that this elevated women's athletics, and particularly NWSL. And so the concept of a roof becomes a really important thing as part of this. And the roof element, we've looked to European soccer as a model, as you can expect. And the lessons learned from that and what makes it unique. So the roof feature does a couple different things. Obviously, it covers the seats for rain and for sun as well. But it also provides that iconic element to the stadium. So imagine if the roof wasn't on there, it's like there's something missing at the end of the day. So Angie and Chris really felt like that was an important investment to make in this building to create that iconic element for the Blimp Shot. When there's moments when you see the stadium on national TV, which it will happen.
Watch the meeting. She's in there.
And the other thing as part of that is there's a naming rights opportunity with that, which we're just starting to look at what those opportunities are. The building itself is U-shaped currently. And so you'll see that the west stand, which was some VIP opportunities there. Then the south stand in the distance is for the supporters groups. And then there's the east side stand here as well, which is going to provide a mix of seating opportunities. What's really interesting with this layout then is the open end, and you're seeing the back of a major LED scoreboard here. At the bottom of that, and I'll show you some more details of that in a second, but the bottom of that scoreboard, we're envisioning a massive bar there. So imagine, potentially a couple hundred people hanging out here, looking down on the match, creating a really hostile environment for the visiting team, and particularly the visiting goalie. We love that idea. And also the fact that it's right on the levee and the park system that John and his team have developed, that we plug. It's really important that we plug into that. In addition to that, we'd see that bar as an opportunity that, again, that companies could lease on non-game days or game days potentially as well. So we love that idea of having this opened in. In addition, it also creates opportunity for expansion down the road. So we've got a couple different ways to expand the seating in the venue to keep the bar and to keep the scoreboard, but also down the road to increase the size or capacity of the stadium, if you will. So as we move around to the west side, I was mentioning the major entry point on the west side here, so you can start to see what that looks like. You can see the open end of the stadium and the views over towards the Bond Bridge. Then as we step into the stadium, a couple different things happening. So we're on the west stand here, where we'll have some suites, a club area, and some VIP experiences. There will be a variety of seating types here. Again, I mentioned club seats. There's group sales opportunities again, so you could get a group of 20 or up to 50 people into different events, and you can rent out different spaces. Each corner of the stadium, we're envisioning a major sponsorship opportunity where we might have a cornerstone sponsor that would be a naming right for each one of those areas, where it could be that business or entity could talk about their history in a really immersive branded environment that can relate to KC Current and women's athletics and the rise of that. And so we envision some pretty significant branding opportunities in each corner of the stadium. And in fact, this view is standing in one of those right now, looking out over the pitch. Then I mentioned the big bar down there, and I might solicit your collective help. We need to figure out what the longest linear foot bar is in Kansas City, and we need to beat it by at least a foot. So that's what we want to do down here in this open bar concept. I mentioned the scoreboard that you see there. And again, this is another partnership opportunity here for a cornerstone partner. And then finally, as we wrap up the walk around the building, this is the front door. This is what we're envisioning when you arrive to the facility. Front and center is part of John's dense urban infill opportunity. As you get through that, you jump off the streetcar, you walk to the match. You'll be presented with our front door, which we think would be a really great bar and restaurant collaboration with a rooftop experience as well that looks back down onto this whole great urban experience. And then you pass through the gates and into the stadium itself. Then I'll wrap up with the Flyaround, the fun part. I see that a bunch of questions came up here, and John, I'd say that we perhaps open up and maybe try to address a few of those questions as we go through here.
Absolutely. I've been trying to monitor while you've been talking, Tom. So I'll jump in and mention a couple of them. Those of you who are familiar with the riverfront and the Riverfront Heritage Trail from Berkeley Park to the town of Kansas Bridge, that is a biophilic. It's a restorative wetlands, and we are continuing to replace and add trees that are indigenous to the park. We continue to work with folks related to trying to focus on true indigenous replacement of green material and making sure it's a shaded walkable space. The design around this facility will be no different. It will absolutely be focused on being an integrated green walkable part of the experience of the riverfront. And along those lines, I'll just editorialize on two things and say that in conversations with the ownership group, they certainly want this to be uniquely Kansas City, not just the built environment, but also the sponsorship. Contact Chris and Angie if your company is interested in being a partner in any way, please reach out to them. They are committed to as many local, really unique activations, partnerships, things that really define Kansas City. And I would also say that as far as food and beverage and music and experience, what you've seen in their inaugural season, I think is just the tip of the iceberg of what they want to do in truly being and supporting local and making every fan that comes here from all over the world know that they're in Kansas City. So that would be my only mention there on that.
I'm trying to catch up on some of these questions here. My apologies. I got stuck into my presentation and wasn't paying attention. But it looks like there's a question on the World Cup. This would play into our World Cup bid, this building. So that is in the flow of conversations.
Yeah, and I would just mention also, somebody said Ted Lasso, Jason Sudeikis, and Paul Rudd. Certainly they're aware of it. Paul Rudd, Tom just lost to Sexiest Man in People magazine to Paul Rudd. Like, he finished, I think it was a 1-2 close finish. So let's all tell Tom we're really sorry that Paul Rudd beat him out on Sexiest Man Alive.
John, I don't know. You got a pretty sweet haircut there, man. So solar and maybe sustainability opportunities. Yeah, so we have a great conversation that is unfolded with Evergy, and so that's ongoing. We're looking at all opportunities to maximize the sustainability components to the building. And Evergy is proving, and perhaps not surprising, to be potentially a great partner in this. So there's a lot of moving parts with that right now, and how we bring this all together. There's a lot of factors right now, and I think a lot of you on this Zoom are aware of the issues out there with supply chain. It's real, and we're having some real difficulty in sourcing right now, and J.E. Dunn could speak a lot about that right now, but it's significantly increasing the cost of steel. And so we're looking at alternatives to that right now. As one example, up at Riverside, not to turn away from the stadium, but as a result of that, we switched to an all wood framed building. So the entire structure of the training center is wood, CLT and glulam. And so that from a cost standpoint helped us a little bit. And it also helps with the sustainability aspects as we look to try to drive these projects and collectively, not only these ones, but in our community, we want to try to push towards carbon neutral and net zero energy buildings. And we're absolutely going to push this venue towards that. And we don't have all the details yet because we're literally open conversations right now with Evergy.
Yep. And I would add one more thing. I think Rick Usher mentioned it, but actually currently there are no manufacturers at scale for some of the floating hydropower programs, but we have had, I personally have had 3 meetings with companies related to riverborne hydropower, and we have had discussions with the Corps of Engineers, since we're the primary conduit with the Corps, for pre-approval on certain types of floating barge hydropower, not just for the stadium, but just in general along the riverfront. And studies related to that show that the stretch from our port terminal in the West Bottoms through to the turn, that this is actually the most conducive section of the Missouri River in the region for potential hydropower. So certainly are looking at that. And as the market opportunities and manufacturing become available, we want to utilize as much as we can to focus on carbon neutrality.
Yes, and I think so. It's looking at timing. Yeah. So the timing on the stadium is that in the fall of 2023 we would host our first events, which would be non-soccer related. And so we'll see where that ends up, but I would imagine a really awesome concert. And then the team would take the pitch in 2024.
And actually, I don't know if he's on, but the city manager was texting me, and so I will mention again to everybody on here that another part of this is, if you see this view, you'll see the riprap, the rock. That's actually the levee. And then all of where the stadium is built and the entire park and riverfront is built above and on top of the levee, the 500-year levee wall. And additionally, one of the other things that we're looking at will be how can we more consciously create some walkways and some activity from the existing areas where you can view the river, but actually get people down to the water to maybe sit closer to the water. So we're in process with that. And to answer Cynthia's question, as far as coordinating the restaurants, all of that will be done by the ownership group and the team that they bring on as far as the general management and operations of the facility. All right.
That is absolutely fantastic. Quite honestly, I'm blown away and almost speechless. I say almost. And thank you for tracking questions in the Q&A, John. You did a great job of taking those on, and I think most of those got covered. And so again, thanks everybody on the call who provided those questions. That's great. It's clear that this is so much more than just a sports story, which it is, but it's also so much more than just an individual project story. And it is a great development to talk about, but this is, I think, as you said earlier, it's transformational, it's catalytic. I mean, it's about community building, and just, my mind goes to the image of the spirit of Kansas City, the great painting. And here we've got just a wonderful illustration of that. This last slide here, this image with the river, the beautiful stadium, the skyline, the fireworks. It's just all incredible. So thank you all for sharing that story with us today. This has been amazing. We look forward to to following and seeing how this develops. And hopefully some of those supply chain issues we'll be able to work through and soon see progress on this. Love to hear, you know, the bringing into the World Cup process. And, you know, I know hearing Kathy Nelson was talking a couple weeks ago about that effort and the importance of sustainability that is to FIFA and the selection committee. And clearly this just embraces that wholeheartedly. So congratulations to everybody, Chris, Angie, Brittany, the ownership group. Thank you for bringing women's soccer back to Kansas City. Thank you for elevating it to the level that women's soccer and women's sports needs to be. So thank you, John and Tom, both for being here today. We're closing. Go ahead.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you both.
Thanks everyone for taking the time. We really appreciate it. Always happy to share everything that's going on with projects like this. It's exciting for all of us, and it is a true team effort at every level. So thank you all for being such advocates of downtown.
Thank you both. Like I said, we're near the end. There's a couple things I did want to mention before we close out. You know, in the spirit of exciting news, next month, I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, KC Downtowners plans to be back in person. We'll continue to have the virtual option for those who find that more convenient. But our plan right now is to be back in person at the Crossroads Hotel on December, help me out, second Wednesday. Is it the 12th? I think that's right. So we're looking at, go ahead, Kate.
December 8th.
Oh, thank you. Gosh. One of the things with COVID is I don't know how to read a calendar anymore. So thank you for keeping me on track. December 8th, Kate has been instrumental in pulling that together. So we're excited about that. We are excited to welcome Gunnar Hand, who is the Director of Planning and Urban Design for the Unified Government. And that's going to be a really exciting story because Gunnar is going to be talking about transportation as it relates to not just Wyandotte County, but connection plans that, as we've been talking about today, building community and looking at a unique way to link Kansas City, Kansas and Kansas City, Missouri. You have to join us to find out what that strategy is. Also, finally, want to mention that we will be making the presentation of our annual Jim Davis Award recipient. Excited to be able to do that in person. Details will be forthcoming on email, website, social, all that good stuff. So thank you all again for being here with us today. Thank you, John. Thank you, Tom. Thank you again to Chris, Angie, and Brittany. And everybody go out and have a wonderful day.